recently we've all been talking about how Azeroth is this elemental energy, like all of us are imagining her as this ball of energy like the sun that we've seen in the cinematic. However, this new artwork we had discovered from the early production stages show on multiple occasions a gigantic hand. I'm talking an absolutely huge hand where one single nail is bigger than a zeppelin. However, even more interestingly, this hand seems to be resting or sleeping, and one is in the water in the complete dark, as the fish told us, in the void sea where no light shines. While this is of course early stuff, we do know in fact that this is where the world soul is. Other artwork even shows the rift that is supposedly Khaz'Algar in the middle of the sea. The game so far confirmed that the prisoner of Azeroth is in Khaz'Algar, so what exactly is this? Is Azeroth sleeping in the literal sense, and we are about to discover her actual body? So while we examine this out of Azeroth, I decided to ask a few of these questions to Azeroth herself, whether she can really give us any answers. The coolest thing with PolyBuzz, you can literally create whatever character you want, type in a backstory, get an image, tweak it just right, and then you can talk to anyone from your own WoW character to literally the world soul of Azeroth itself. I didn't hear anything about the wounds yet, but you might when you try it out with my link in the description. Check out PolyBuzz. So if you've been watching my previous video, you might have seen that I've already talked about these images, mainly focusing on the really interesting old god figures. However, just due to how interesting this is, it really deserves a separate video because there is literally a few images of artwork showing a gigantic hand, and as I said, massive hand that seems to be coming from a few different angles, but also from the sea, from the water. We're talking a hand where one nail is the size of a zeppelin, which is essentially Titan size in their true form. I mean, kinda compare the sword of Sargeras and how big one nail would be. Now, just to clarify this real quick, if you don't understand where these images are coming from, no, this is not AI, this is not fan art, this is not like some random guy leaked it. All of these images are from a place called the West Studio. It is on their official website. It's like a concept art studio that Blizzard hired as a third-party contractor to draw up inspirations and images for the War Within in the early stages of creating the expansion. These images are actually from 2021, so about peak Shadowlands, which goes to show you that this is when they began the pre-production stage. The studio itself says that some of these images actually made it into the game, some didn't, and this was a way for them to work through different ideas for the main team at Blizzard. Now, one thing people are saying, which is kinda half true, but it's also not entirely true, these are, as they say, blue sky concepts, which means it is mainly to put ideas out there without many restrictions. But what is certain is that Blizzard knew what the goal was, what was going to happen. They didn't just tell them, randomly draw some underground zones unrelated to World of Warcraft. In fact, if you really closely examine these images, you will see that many of them are actually in the game. Some zones like Ashkahet are almost exactly the same, while some old god figures, I believe, are yet to show up, which you covered in the previous video. However, the Arati stuff is also quite similar to the final product. Some of these shots are literally in the cinematic, like the one with the zeppelin, just without the hand. Now, here we have two interesting things, other than the belly-related stuff in the old god concepts, which as I said I previously covered, and that is this one massive hand, which, based on the nails and the way it looks, is almost certainly a female hand, and I feel like this really slipped under the radar where no one is actually talking about this. So just think about this real quick. We know that the World Soul Prison, or at least one mechanism called the World Core that we've learned a few months ago, is literally in Khaz'Algar under Ashkahet. This is not speculation or anything, it is literally in the game, in the quest lines. First, old gods were here, then the World Tree Eluna here, through Elune and Eonar that was ripped out, and the roots that we'll soon discover, and then the Titans tried to seal up this rift, and they got their earthen to create a chamber called the World Core, in order to be the only ones that are able to influence the World Soul. The reason we know Azeroth is literally here, like this is the heart, is because she started giving them free will and got them to rebel when they got really close. There's all this Traegar lore and everything that I've covered in previous videos. Now, check out this really interesting image. It is one massive maelstrom, and this is not the maelstrom in the middle of Azeroth that you're used to. I somehow feel like this is concept art of what Khaz'Algar was like before the World Tree and everything. It's possible possible that the old god, the fifth old god, was actually under the sea here, but there is definitely a gigantic rift in the sea with kind of pieces of land like spikes coming out, like it was hidden, but obviously there was some sort of landmass beneath this rift. However, I want to real quick mention the sea under the sea that was literally also hinted at in the game. There are so many different hints about it. There is the so-called undersea in Helloval, which is like a sea, like 2 zones beneath the sea level, but it seems like something really sinister is hiding even a level below that. The old godfish in that questline came out, returned to the depths where, as he or she said, no light shines, and told us about the old gods, and now I wanna get into the meat of the matter, this artwork. So, as I said, we have a few images of the gigantic hand. I'm talking absolute insane hand within the depths, and all positions show it to be relaxed, as if it is sleeping or it is about to wake up. And let me just tell you guys, blue sky concept or not, this is 100% not random. Like, there is no way the studio thought, yeah, just let's draw a random humanoid gigantic hand for no reason here. I would get it if it was a monster or old god being or something scary, but we know Azeroth is a she was supposed to awaken as a titan, so very likely a humanoid-like figure. Now, this hand looks kind of delicate, but absolutely massive. Massive, the hand itself is the size of a large building or two. The nail, as I said, is literally the size of a zeppelin, as you can see. Even more interestingly, there is yet another image that shows a boat, and the hand is within the water, but the hand is once again resting or relaxed as if it is like sleeping. What is really interesting about this image in particular is that the image itself is completely dark. There is a boat coming through with its light, but that is really the only source of light within this image, if you really look at the details. I don't know about you, but to me this seems so much like what the fish told us about the void sea where no light shines. Keep in mind, no light shines. How realistic is that Azeroth is actually sleeping, like literally sleeping within this depth? These few images are so interesting to me because the World Soul has always really been vague. She has been referred to as a female and a she and very likely humanoid, but we never knew what she really was. She was originally a titan, then random energy, then most recent lore shows us that Azeroth is like this elemental ball of energy. However, what if Azeroth is literally sleeping, not as a giant ball of energy, but as an actual being, like a giant titan-like figure sleeping in the depths of Azeroth? Because keep in mind, we are within these depths right now, a few layers beneath the earth. Does this actually mean that the body of Azeroth as a being is hiding within there? We never really understood what world souls are, how they work, whether they exist as a fetus type thing within some sort of a cocoon, or whether they're just energy that gets converted based on this. So it is likely that the first option is the more realistic option, like Azeroth actually exists as a body. Now, I somehow feel like a whole mess happened here, and this is not what it is supposed to be like this cocoon was broken, infested with old god blood and these roots, so it is one giant mess beneath the earth. There is obviously that hint with the old god blood that is under the crust of Azeroth. We still had not really seen the reservoir, we had not even seen the world core, which is the chamber over Azeroth. Remember, that quest told us that the Titans built a chamber so they can be the only ones to influence it. This confirms two things. Obviously, other forces influenced it in the past and they built some sort of a prison over Azeroth's body. Now, keep in mind, we have not seen it. In fact, that giant hole in Khaz'Algar in the city itself is an elevator. We've learned it was built so that the Titans can go down it and visit the chamber and observe the world soul. The elevator, however, crashes within the zones. It is jammed, so there is 100% a zone below there. We are yet to see the old god bod, and if the old god bod is this powerful, you would imagine it is literally a giant void sea with magical properties. We're also yet to see the rootlands and the roots of Luna here. Also, remember that Harnir questline, the goddess called them to come to this place to nurture the root. So it confirms that at least in the eyes of the Harnir, Azeroth is a she and a goddess, and this might literally be her hand. Of course though, as I said, this was a very early concept art, so they may have told us that the world soul is there in this underground zone and they just drew something interesting. Of course though, as I said, it was very clearly early concept art, so they may have told them that the world soul is there in this underground zone to draw something interesting about it, so they just came up with a hand. It doesn't mean that we will certainly see a hand, but based on this, don't really be surprised if we do actually run into the body of Azeroth, like an actual body. At the moment it is super confusing because it does seem like we're kind of going to clash with the Darkheart with the way the cinematic ended, but we only got one more major patch left in this expansion, and obviously we'll eventually come to the world core that the Titans had built. Based on the Rootlands hint, the sea under the sea, the old god stuff and everything, it does seem like like it will happen in this expansion. I think very soon we might learn what Azeroth truly is. No more Titan perspectives, old god perspectives, brokers and whatnot. We might see her with our own eyes, and then we can decide what is actually going on and who Azeroth really is. Thanks for watching. Check out my video in the old god part of this out by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my raid channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.